setting on Cleveland Brown Stadium, and the sun has set on the Cleveland Brown season. It is all about now playing hard, playing for next year, and being positive as you can be about this football season and trying to get better as a football team. And that's the question. What's the direction of the franchise? What's the direction of the football team? For some of those answers and some more thoughts on today's loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers, we go back down to Cleveland Brown Stadium where Kendall Lewis, the big sports kahuna, is standing by. Hi, Kendall.
Hey, guys. You know what? You talk about, the quarterback, or you talk about the philosophy of this football team. To me, it comes down to one thing. As I watch this football team, I see things that high school teams do. I see things that college teams do, such as clock management. The clock management on this football team is horrible. The way that this football team goes about its business, and it manifests itself on Sunday, and Lanky, you can attest to this. When you having all kinds of penalties, when you don't have the discipline you need to play well against the best teams, when you don't have enough discipline to get over the hump, with a team that made the playoffs just a couple of years ago, granted, there have been some changes, but I think it's time for a coaching change. Personally, I think so, because when you start to have a lot of this stuff, man, it just does not look good from that standpoint. They're always in a position where they have to count on a big play to get over the hump when they should play well enough throughout the game to be there to make the play to get over the hump. So it's just a vicious cycle, guys.
Kendall, to that note, you're not going to be the only one who's saying that the Browns probably need to look at making a coaching change. You flat out called for that coaching change. Here's the problem, though, and I'm not saying that I don't agree with you, but where do you go? You got to, you look at, you start talking about college football coaches, you start talking about retread NFL assistant coaches. I think you got to have a solid plan if you're going to call for a coaching change. Where do you want to go with that coaching change? Any thoughts on that process, Kendall? I'm sure you've thought it through just a little bit. Where do you see the Browns going? College coach, NFL coach? I'm not looking for names, Kendall. I'm just saying, where do you think they go?
Well, from my guys in the National Football League have told me the next coach in the Cleveland situation, if there is a change, it's going to be a guy from the pro ranks, and it should probably be someone with some head coaching experience. I'll throw a name out there, and I can fall on this sword. I would personally like to see a guy like Jim Mora in the mix. I would like to see a guy like Jim Fossil in the mix. Why? Because they've won in tough situations before. Fossil has taken his team to the Super Bowl. Mora has resuscitated previously teams that have not won. So to me, I would like to get a guy with some experience. But I'd like to have a guy with some experience, ideally, who's an offensive mind, because the football that we've been watching since 1999 is awful. It's ugly. It's not even worth watching. I had a better time watching pro football when the Browns weren't here. That having been said, I really believe that they should scour the National Football League. Maybe not for the next great mind, but maybe for a guy with an offensive philosophy that fits their talent.
Yeah, I think you're making some great points, Kendall. There's no question about that. But as you push this thing forward, I think the big thing with Coach Davis, and you made some good points about the discipline, is I just don't know that they've got good enough football players right here. I think that dual role thing that Coach Davis is trying to pull off is too much for him to do. And I think it's too much for anyone to do. Your thoughts there, Kendall?
Yeah, and I've talked about this, when I was on the radio here in Cleveland. I've talked about this ad nauseum, that the problem does not come on game days. The problem is in November the 14th at, 5 o'clock. The problem is in late April when these guys sit down to choose their players. I mean, there are too many people who have messed up, who they've passed over, rather, to mention here in this short time that we have. But it starts there with player acquisition, and you're right, not enough talent, but they could coach it better.
All right, thanks, Kendall Lewis, live at Cleveland Brown Stadium. We are far from finished here on the fifth quarter. We're back with our final thoughts and a look forward for the Browns as they get ready.